we needed to cover the Mishkan with tapestries, which was threads of wool and linen woven together, and it was dyed with different colors. And the dye comes from herbs that grow. That's what you have to harvest and seed, plow, and then gather, which we discussed. And now we have the malacha of dash, threshing, because we had to take those kernels and break open the kernels one side of chaff. You have to break open the chaff to get out the kernels or the seeds or the herbs, whatever they were. So you could use that, and then later they would grind it and mix it with water and boil it, and they would create a dye from the boiling. That comes later. So that's melach of dash. Dash is melach of threshing, when you take the entire husk with the kernel inside, and you break it open. You separate the chaff from what's inside. So I said the word separate, but it's not the malacha of boile, which we know familiar with boile separating on Shabbos. It's not that. It's about when you have two different items, one trapped inside each other, and you extract one from the other. That's the malacha of dash. Boile separating is different. That's when you have two items mixed together. Over here, it's very specific. Over here, it has to do because it's. See, when you would have okay, there's different ways how to explain it. I'll explain it the simple way. One way to explain it is that the malacha of dash, threshing, is when it's done a lot of the time for storing, not for eating right away. So you do a lot. For example, walnuts, yeah? So walnuts, have you ever buy walnuts in the store with the shell? Right, with the shell? So that's not how it grows on the tree. There's another shell that grows on top of that. So to open walnuts on Shabbos, that's not the malacha of dash. That could be issue of separating. But the shell that's on top of the walnut, that's dash. Because that's done mass production. Anything that's mass production, it's not done to be eaten right away, will go into the category of dash, of threshing. As opposed to the walnuts that you buy in the store, you open it and you eat it. So there you don't have the malacha of dash. That's one way to explain it. There's another explanation that because the way we buy the walnuts now, they are very closely attached to the fruit. So there you don't have the malacha of dash. But there's a lot of discussion on this. So the easiest way to understand is that when it's done mass production a lot of the time, then you have the malacha of dash, of threshing. But that's what threshing is. The malacha of threshing is they do a lot of time and they put away into storage. You should have not. You thresh now and you eat it. You're doing it a lot at a time. That's what the malacha of dash is. So other examples of dash would be, for example, squeezing fruits, squeezing grapes and olives. So if you squeeze grapes and olives, that is also the malacha of dash. And that's according to the way we explained it. It makes sense because when you're squeezing grapes and olives, you're not squeezing grapes and drinking the juice right away. You're squeezing grapes, olives. It's mass production, doing it a lot at a time, and you're putting it away. So you should have whatever you need. You're not doing it. I need to have some grape juice now. Take grape, squeeze it. I need olives. I need olive oil. Squeeze. You do it a lot at a time. It also has to do. Malach also has to do with this that it's inside. One is contained inside the other, and it's not closely attached. So I'll give the other explanation, which also helps understand. So the way some explain it is that when it's closely attached, then it's almost like one thing. Then that's not dash. So an example of the walnuts, you have it, where the walnuts, the outer shell, it's the way the walnuts are now, it's closely attached. If you open up a walnut, the walnut the nut is very closely attached to the shell. It's stuck together. Open up a walnut, then you pull out the nut. It's closely attached. Whereas the outer shell, I don't know if anyone saw it. I didn't see it myself. I think it's green. They say the way it grows on a tree. There's the outer shell. So now the walnut that you buy in the store with the shell on is sitting in that outer shell. It's not closely attached. It's like it's loose inside. It's sort of like, so it's like being held inside, but not closely attached. So that's another way how to explain the malacha of that dash is when it's not closely attached. When it's closely attached, like the way you see a walnut in the store with the shell, because it's closely attached, so the shell is sort of nullified, sort of in a sense, to the nut itself. So now it's not considered like you're extracting one thing from the other, even though when it comes to separating, if you know the malacha of bita separating, that's whenever you separate two different items, it's going to be bita. But in terms of dash, because it's closely attached, so it's viewed in like one item. So we're saying, to this explanation is saying that the malacha of dash is when, to begin with, it's perceived as two separate items. It is inherently two separate items. And then you extract one from the other. And that's why the malacha of dash, of threshing, according to the Torah, is only when it comes to olives and grapes. According to the Torah, it's prohibited other fruits also, as we explained. But according to the Torah, it's only olives and grapes that you're not allowed to squeeze out. Why? Because other fruits, take example, an orange. When you're squeezing an orange, the liquid inside the orange is not considered separate from the fruit. The liquid inside the orange is considered one thing with the fruit. According to halacha, the juice inside our orange, for example, is called the sweat of the fruit. Called like people sweat, this is the sweat of the fruit. It's like one item. So according to the Torah, there's no prohibition to squeeze oranges on Shabbos because it's considered like one item. It's one thing. It's an orange that has sweat, quote unquote. Okay, sweat, juice. That's the term that's used. Sweat. I know it sounds a little funny, but what I mean to say is that it's part of it. It's like a separate thing. It's like you open up the orange and there's juice. It's one thing. The orange is all one thing. Right? In other words, forget about the peel. In other words, peel an orange, let's say, then I take the orange and you're squeezing it. So now, according to that, are you extracting one thing from the other? No, because we're extracting juice from the orange. It's one thing. According to the Torah, the way it's viewed is, it's like, imagine you take brownies, take a sponge cake, right? And you take the cake and squeeze it, like kids like to play with it, and they squeeze it, and then you squeeze it so hard that a piece falls out, right? So you squeeze the cake out of the cake. It's one thing, right? So according to the Torah, the orange is the same thing. There's no prohibition on squeezing oranges or lemons. Rabbinically, it's prohibited. According to the Torah, only grapes and olives is prohibited because it's viewed as two separate items. Being that the purpose of grapes and olives is for the juice, it's part of the reason, because then you could ask about other fruits also. Part of the reason is because grapes and olives is meant for the juice, and also the way it's sitting inside the grape and olive, it's viewed as two separate things. So a grape, the juice inside the grape, according to the Torah, is viewed as a separate thing than the grape itself. You have the grape, then you have the juice inside. You have the olive and the juice inside. So according to the Torah, when you're squeezing out the grape, you're squeezing out the juice in the grape, the juice of the olive, you're extracting one thing from the other. And that's prohibited according to the Torah. Rabbinically, it's also prohibited to squeeze other fruits. Why is other fruits also prohibited? Rabbinically, okay, our sages prohibit a lot of them. What's the logic? The logic is because even though it's viewed as one thing, but being that you have an interest in the juice, and the custom is, this is what people do, they make in a place where there's a lot of oranges, they make orange juice, so therefore it is viewed as juice. So rabbinically, when we look at the orange like a fruit that contains juice inside. So rabbinically, we do view it as two separate things. There's the fruit and there's the juice inside. Why do we look at it as juice, even though according to the Torah it's not considered juice, it's called part of the fruit? Because being that the derech, the custom is that people do squeeze oranges, people make oranges in the United States where there's a lot of oranges, they place with this very few oranges, they won't use it for juice. But in here, there's a lot of oranges, they use it for juice. So therefore, rabbinically, it's viewed as juice, not viewed as part of the fruit, but rather like there's a fruit and there's juice sitting inside the fruit, similar to grapes and olives. So therefore, rabbinically, you cannot squeeze oranges on Shabbos, because that's in the category, rabbinically, it's in the category of dash, extracting, because we view it as two separate items, one contained inside the other, and extracting one from the other. Is there any questions before we go on? Okay. Other examples of extracting. Now, in every malacha, there's the av malacha, there's the tulda. There's the av malacha, what was done in the Mishkan, dash, threshing was in the Mishkan. And then anything similar to what was done in the Mishkan is equally prohibited, even though it wasn't actually in the Mishkan, but being that it's similar, very similar to what was done in the Mishkan, it's equally prohibited. Like, just to give an example, El Tenor brings in Shulchan Aruch a very clear example. In the Mishkan, there was the malacha of grinding. You would grind the herbs. You would grind them into powder. Okay? But on Shabbos, you're also not allowed to take a vegetable and dice it very, very thin. Even though you don't call it grinding, it's called dicing thin. But it's similar. So anything that's similar is also prohibited. So the Mishkan, there was dash, which was threshing, though they take the husk and break open the husk and get out the kernel, get out the herb, the seed, whatever was inside. And then similar to that is mephanik, what we're discussing now. All the examples that we're discussing is actually called mephanik, extracting. There was no grapes and olives done in the Mishkan. There's no walnuts in the Mishkan that were extracting, but it's similar to what was done in the Mishkan. So this is called a tulga. So dash is the av malacha, the av, and the farik is the tulga, the offspring. So there's the 39 avos. There's the third. I know we discussed it. We didn't mention this before. There's the 39 malachas that were done in the Mishkan. They're called the avos, the fathers of the malacha, because that was in the Mishkan itself. Then there's the tulga. Right here, so you can see it. It's working. Then there is the tulga. Tulga means the offshoot. Or tulga can mean like Eila Tel B'Snei. This means Pasha. Tulga means the offsprings, the offshoots. The offshoots meaning that anything that's similar to what was done at the Mishkan is called a tulga. What a question. What does it?
Word offshoot. That's that great thing.
Offshoot, anything similar, anything that comes out from it. Okay, so we're going to go into more details of the malacha of mefarik. So, another example of the malacha of mefarik is peas in a pod. In a pod, you open up and take out the peas. That's also mefarik. You can't do that in Shabbos, because that's considered two separate items, one contained inside the other, and you can't open it up to take it out. And one of the reasons would be because that's usually done mass production. It's not done right when you eat it. So therefore, it's in the category of the farid. Then you have garlic. Garlic is questionable. There's the outer peel and there's the inner peel. The inner peel of the garlic, the cloves itself, that's not mefarik. That's not mefarik. That's not extracting. That's like when you peel anything else. You peel like an orange. there is the malach of Bairid, of separating, which we're going to talk about, separating the Shabbos. Separate discussion. But that's the clove itself. But then there's the outer. Let's open up a new garlic. The shell, the peel, it's around a new garlic. Then it's questionable if it's in the category of mefarik or not. Questionable meaning it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, that's one of the opinions mentioned, that he's doubtful, he's not sure if it's in the category of mefarik. So many people are careful, they will not open up a new garlic on Shabbos. So the cloves is not an issue. Talking about if you're taking a new garlic, it should not be opened on Shabbos, because it might be the category of the fact. It's not clear how do we view it. And one, because according to one of the explanations, if it's contained inside, when the cloves itself, it's stuck to it, so it's part of it. But then you have the outer shell, just like the outer shell of the walnut is considered mefarik. So there's reason to say that the outer peel of the garlic is mefarik. But it's not clear. So you can't say for sure, because one of the reasons mefarik has to do with it's done mass production. Garlic is not done mass production. You buy a garlic and you open it up when you need it. But on the other hand, the way it's sitting, each one has its own layer. And then it's sitting inside another one where it's not stuck together like this, like a regular peel, where it becomes like one. So it could be viewed as two separate things. That's why we're careful not to open up a new garlic on Shabbos. Is anything confusing it that's, let me to explain? I know I was talking a lot, so anything that's, you want me to clarify? Yeah? Yeah.
So, with the first one, the house, with like Josh,
The what?
with the Amalek by Josh,
Dosh, yeah.
are we allowed to squeeze lemons on top of like?
Oh, okay, so we're gonna get to it. We're getting to lemons. Getting to it. Yeah, we're getting to it. Okay, any other questions? Okay. So, according to the Torah, the prohibition when it comes to squeezing fruits is specifically grapes and olives. Rabbinically, all fruits that people squeeze for its juice, means it's the derech, it's the custom, it's what people do that they squeeze for its juice. Only people, the company, or you yourself, or whatever. It's done in the United States. This is what it's done. Like oranges, grapefruits, pineapple, lemons. These are all fruits that is usually squeezed for its juice. It's something that's done mass production. They squeeze a lot of it to make juice out of it. So rabbinically, you are not allowed to squeeze it out on Shabbos. And Yom Tov too, by the way. Now, there are fruits that people don't squeeze for its juice. Let's say, for example, I think cantaloupe. I've never seen cantaloupe juice yet. Maybe now there is. I mean, years ago when I started teaching it, so I would go whenever I was in these big supermarkets, I would look around to see what juices they sell. I haven't seen cantaloupe juice. So assuming that's not, people don't squeeze, the question is, could you squeeze it on Shabbos? Let's say you want to squeeze it. So there is a machloekes, there's an argument. There are those that say that still you should not squeeze it if your intention is for the juice. If your intention is because you want the juice, it's good to be strict. Let's jump back for a second to the other fruits, grapefruits, oranges, lemons, pineapple, that you're not allowed to squeeze. What if I want to squeeze it not for the juice?
Yeah, if you did
You want to squeeze
you can do it, right?
on the food, right? I'm going to get to that, right? So if you squeeze it to give a taste into food, then it's okay, right? But let's say you want to squeeze it not because you want the juice. Why? You're bored, you know. You take the grapefruit and you're just squeezing it because you want to exercise. I don't know why. You're squeezing it, not for the juice. Is that prohibited?
Yeah.
So it's actually an argument. It's a machlekes, and the Alter Rebbe says we should be strict not to do it. In other words, it's not black and white that it's clearly prohibited. Although they say it's okay because it's not for the juice, But being that it's usually squeezed for the juice, even though you're not doing it for the juice, the proper thing is to be strict. And then we said before, when it comes to fruits like cantaloupe, people don't squeeze for its juice. So now if you are going to squeeze it for the juice, again, you should be strict because you are squeezing it for the juice. But if you're squeezing it not for the juice, let's say you take cantaloupe, but no one squeezes it for the juice, and you're squeezing it, why are you squeezing it? Not for the juice. Then there's no problem. Because you're not squeezing it for its juice, it's not meant to be squeezed for juice, then it's totally okay. But if you decide to squeeze it for its juice, then the Alter Rebbe says, yesh lahachmir, one should be strict. The proper thing is to be strict. Yes.
When it comes to squeezing, you can't squeeze the sponge or hair,
Can't squeeze what?
sponge or
We're
hair.
getting to it. Everything, it's coming. It's coming. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, so now you have eating soup and you're dipping the chal into the soup. And of course, you have to be careful not to do bishul because the soup is very hot. We're not discussing the bishul, the cooking aspect of boiling soup or putting in challah, which you shouldn't do. We're not discussing that now. We're focusing on this. You bring the challah to the soup, and then you take the challah and you want to squeeze out the juice back into squeeze out the soup back into the soup. Yeah? Put the challah into the soup, and now you want to squeeze it out. Is that allowed? So, if you're squeezing it back into the soup, it's prohibited. Rabbinically, it's prohibited. But if you're squeezing it and it's going to waste, let's say, for whatever reason, I must admit it's not a practical situation, but maybe sometimes kids do whatever, but that's halacha. If the cow in the soup and then you're squeezing out and the soup is going to the garbage, let's say. Let's say you got too soggy, fountains or whatever, and you want to eat the cow, it's too soggy, you don't like it, yeah? So you can squeeze out and drink it. So you're squeezing it out of the plate, whatever, you're not going to use that juice that's coming out of the cow. You're just squeezing it out and that's it. Then there's no problem. You're allowed to squeeze it out because you're not interested in the liquid. And the interesting thing is, according to the Torah, because the liquid is absorbed in the challah, we don't view the slice of challah as challah, solid food with liquid pocketed inside. We don't look at it that way. We look at it like food because the liquid is inside the solid, so it's nullified to the solid. It's looked at one entity, a piece of solid food. So it's only an issue if your intention is for the liquid. But if you don't care about, you're not interested in the liquid, it's too soggy. You want to eat it, but it's too soggy. You're just squeezing it out so you can eat it. There's no problem. It's specifically this case. And it's a piece of challah that absorbed liquid. We're not discussing a fruit that had liquid from before, that was created this way, okay? It's only in this case that you're allowed to squeeze it out when you're not interested in the liquid at all. Now, a sponge or a rag that has liquid absorbed in it, and you're squeezing out the liquid. So theoretically, that would be a transgression according to the Torah, because it's like two separate items, one contained inside the other, right? And theoretically, it should be prohibited according to the Torah because it's two different items, correct? Practically, it's not. Why? It's still prohibited, but it's rabbinically prohibited because it's only prohibited by the Torah when you have an interest in the liquid. And when you're using a rag or a sponge and you're squeezing out the liquid, let's say, okay, not always squeezing it, it's not always prohibited, you're wiping, but let's say you're squeezing it out, you're interested in the liquid? Of course you're not interested in the liquid. So because you're not interested in the liquid, it's only prohibited rabbinically. It's still prohibited, but it's a rabbinical prohibition. So practically using a rag, a towel to wipe up a spill, you have to be careful when you use it not to squeeze anything out. Wipe it. And then when it gets saturated, be careful. Don't just continue pressing it. You just have to be careful. Then that was, did you have anything else that you want to, that was it? Yeah.
Here.
Oh, here, okay, yeah, the here, yeah, here's gonna come up later. Here's coming later, yeah, okay. Then there is an issue with wipes, baby wipes. Big challenge for mothers diapering babies with on Shabbos with the baby wipes because a lot of the wipes is problematic and when using a wipe automatically, if you're using a wipe and they're very wet and you're going like this, you're putting pressure. You're wiping the baby, you're putting pressure. Why is it putting pressure? Some liquid is oozing out. So now they sell this in store Shabbos wipes. The Hechsher. It's kosher for Shabbos. So you can buy those wipes. What makes it kosher? That it doesn't have any, barely has any liquid in it. There's some feel doesn't do the job so well, but if it has a Hechsher, so that's the way to go. Another method is that a lot of women don't like, but another method is if you take tissues, you wipe the baby, just like that. And then after you finish wiping the baby's clean. Then you take a spray bottle, you spritz, you spray on the baby, and then you take another few dry tissues and you wipe. That's another way how to do it. A lot of women don't like it. They don't like this method, but huh?
I hear that also you
What?
buy the cheap one.
The cheap.
The expensive that's more limited and
What are you talking about? Sprays?
no,
Wipes.
Yeah, the wipes.
Wipes or tissues? Tissue.
No, wipes.
Wipes.
You
But-
buy like the cheap.
You have to
Wipe.
buy with a Hechsher for Shabbos. Usually with a Hechsher, it's more expensive because it has a Hechsher on it, so you pay for the Hechsher.
Yeah, but if you don't buy with the
If you didn't buy with the Hechsher,
I hear that you can buy the cheap one and you can be like two.
oh, okay, I hear what you're saying. Okay, what you're saying is that you could buy within the brands of the wipes, there's the cheaper brand. The cheaper brand means it's not such good quality, which means it doesn't have too much liquid inside. So by default, it's going to be good for Shabbos because it has nothing in it. He's saying it could be, but you have to check before Shabbos.
Yeah.
You have to test it before Shabbos to see if you press anything coming out. Okay. Then there is sucking a fruit. Are you allowed to take a fruit? And of course, you could bite it and eat it. But let's say you're going to bite it to make a hole, and then take the fruit and suck out the juice. So you're not allowed to squeeze juice, but here you're not squeezing, you're sucking out the juice with your mouth. So do we say, oh, you're squeezing with your mouth? Am I allowed to put on the light switch with my mouth? No, not the regular way, but I'm not allowed to do it. I'm allowed to suck out juice from the fruit with my mouth. If this is called squeezing, I shouldn't be allowed to do it. So there's a big machlokes, as usual, big argument. The reasons why yes, why not. And the bottom line is, the Alter Rebbe says that one should be strict when it comes to olives and grapes, and when it comes to challah, bread, that you put into the soup we discussed before, putting challah to the soup, then you're sucking out the juice. What we discussed about squeezing out the challah, put the challah into the soup, then you put it to your mouth and you want to suck it out. The Alter Rebbe says one should be strict. In other words, there are lenient opinions, but the Alter Rebbe says the proper thing is to be strict. Yes.
What if you don't know the whole soup and you don't put it out, you just
There's no problem. That's not a problem. The problem is not putting it in the challah is not eating it, putting it in your mouth and you're pulling out, you're sucking out the juice from it. So now you're technically squeezing in an unusual way. So some say you're not allowed because generally you cannot prohibit that. Can't do something prohibited even though it's an unusual way. It just lessens the severity of the transgression, but it's still prohibited. Others say that's not called squeezing, that's called eating. Are you allowed to eat? You're allowed to eat. So it's called eating. That's called a method of eating. It's not called a method of malacha. So there's two ways how to look at it. The Alter Rebbe says one should be strict when it comes to olives and grapes, because that's from Torah, and also strict with bread. The Rebbe also says meat. In other words, because technically, theoretically, could put meat into the soup or whatever and absorb liquid, and then, or the meat already has liquid absorbed because it boiled in the soup and you're sucking out the meat. So one should refrain. Now, it was mentioned before, and that's a general rule, that regarding all situations of squeezing out, that when you are squeezing into food and it's giving taste into the food, that's the purpose, then it's okay. That's why when you're making a vegetable salad, you're allowed to take a lemon and squeeze it into the salad because it's giving a taste into the salad. Anyone wondering why it's okay? Why is it okay? Not because Chacham is saying, well, we want you to have a good vegetable salad, so we're going to allow you to do it. It's privilege, it's privilege. The reason is because being that the juice of the lemon is going into the salad, it's going onto the salad, giving a taste into the salad. So now when we look at this juice, we don't look at it as juice. We view it as a solid food. Being that the purpose, the ultimate goal of this lemon juice is to give, for now, is to give a taste into the salad. So it's there for the purpose of solid food, not to drink as a liquid. So now this lemon juice that's coming out, we don't view it as you're extracting liquid from a solid food, but it's like extracting solid food from solid food, because the juice that's coming out of the lemon is coming to give a taste into the salad. So now we don't view it as you extracted liquid from a solid food, but we view it like you extracted solid food from solid food. But it must go directly into the salad. I mean, you cannot squeeze it out. Like I have a special thing for squeezing the lemons. And why squeezing it? I'm going to pour it into the salad afterward. Has to go directly onto the salad, because if it doesn't go directly, then you have the issue where people look at it and they say, oh, it's okay. They don't necessarily get exactly what you're doing afterward. Come say, no. You're going to squeeze it directly into the salad. And again, it's not just, you can't use it as an excuse, meaning, I want lemon, I need lemon juice. Okay, so squeeze it onto a piece of lettuce. No, it has to be that you're putting it to give a taste into the salad. Otherwise, you can't. Yes.
Okay, when I throw olive oil or lemon juice that's squeezed through the bottles or whatever dressing it is onto the salad, that
It's pre-squeezed? Pre-squeezed?
Right, that's not
What's it? Oh, okay,
yeah. I don't consider that olive oil, lemon, whatever, as solid. I still consider it a liquid. It's still piled up at the bottom of the salad. I don't understand why losing a lemon makes salad.
It's not about what you consider. Halacha considers it. Halacha views it. You mentioned something that the liquid that's at the bottom of the salad. The liquid, the purpose of the liquid is not to be on the bottom of the salad. The liquid is to be mixed into the salad. That's why you're squeezing liquid into the salad. You're putting lemon juice into the salad to give it taste into the salad, not that it's stay on the bottom. So you mentioned in your question, and there's the lemon juice sitting at the bottom of the salad. That's not what it's there for. It's there to give a taste into the salad. So there is some lemon juice on the bottom, and you call it lemon juice. It doesn't matter what you call it. We're discussing the way halacha views it, being that, in other words, what we go according to what its purpose is. What's the purpose? The purpose of this lemon juice is to drink? No, it's to give a taste into the salad. It's to become what you really want with this lemon juice is to become mixed into the salad. You can't help it because you can't control nature. And there's going to be lemon juice sitting on the bottom, because if it was up to us, we would make sure that it stays. We have a way to press a button that all the lemon juice that you squeeze into the salad just stay mixed together and nothing should go to the bottom. We do it that way, but we can't. In other words, the purpose of in simple words, the lemon juice is there to give a taste into the salad. It's not for drinking. So therefore, it's viewed as solid food.
You can drink.
Somebody would want. In the end, you can't drink the juice.
Somebody would want to drink that juice that's around that.
Why are you saying that?
Because
then it's juice.
Yeah.
No, you could drink it.
Could be.
Yeah, because once we establish according to law, it's okay what you're doing. In other words, this juice is viewed as solid food. That's why it's okay. Now you have some lemon juice that's accumulated on the bottom. So what? It doesn't become prohibited just because we say we're viewing it, and it's getting the status of solid food halachically. It doesn't cause that this become prohibited. They can't drink it. Why can't you drink it? No, it's like the question is a question. I'm just explaining. I'm not saying why. It's like the question is a good question, but I can see the reason why. But the way the Chacham work is, this is how they establish it. They say this is how you're allowed to do it. They're saying this gets the status of solid food. So being that it has that status halachically, they're not gonna say, oh, now there's some liquid, we're prohibiting it. For what purpose? See, there's no reason why to prohibit it. You get it? There's one more situation, though not so practical, that you're allowed to squeeze fruits onto solid food, even if it's not to give a taste. And that is if the entire liquid is going to become absorbed into the solid food. So let's say you're squeezing lemon juice onto a piece of challah, and the juice is going to get completely absorbed into the challah. Why are you squeezing lemon juice onto challah? Do you like it this way to give a taste of challah? No. Why are you doing it? Yeah, I like to do it. Whatever it is, doesn't matter why. Not to give a taste, for fun, doesn't matter. But if it's actually going to be absorbed, it has to be totally absorbed. You see, when you're squeezing the lemon juice onto the salad, it's not being absorbed in the vegetables, it's giving a taste, it's fine. But we haven't talked about that it's actually becoming absorbed. If it's actually becoming absorbed into the food, you don't care what's the purpose, why you're doing it. Oh, you're doing it because you figured out a way how you're allowed to do this on Shabbos. So you might think to yourself, why are you doing it? We don't squeeze on Shabbos. No. If it's actually getting absorbed, whatever's getting absorbed is okay. Now, you're going to continue squeezing after it can't absorb anymore. That's not allowed. But whatever is getting absorbed, the amount that will get absorbed is totally okay. Because it's becoming, again, to say, what's the logic? You're not squeezing, you're not extracting liquid from solid, you're extracting solid from solid, because being that this liquid is becoming absorbed into the solid, it attains the status of a solid food. But if we go according to what's the purpose of this. Now I'll mention one more thing, and that is, are you allowed to squeeze lemon into sugar? It would seem yes, because the lemon, you remember, right? Because the lemon is getting absorbed into the sugar. But if you're going to take the sugar later and put it into the tea, then where's it going into? It's going into liquid. So yes, you're allowed to squeeze the lemon juice, squeeze the lemon into the sugar if it's going to get totally absorbed in the sugar. And then if that's how you want to eat the sugar, you're going to eat the sugar like that, then eat a spoonful of sugar with lemon juice, let's say. If that's what you want to do, fine. But if the plan is, I need lemon juice in my tea, not allowed. Oh, I'm smart. I'm going to squeeze the lemon into the sugar. It's solid. It's okay. Yeah. Now I'll take the sugar and with the lemon juice and throw it into the tea. That's not allowed because the original purpose why you squeeze the lemon was that it should go into the tea. You're not allowed to do that. Okay. We'll stop here. We'll continue Mitzvah Shem tomorrow. Is everyone?
Yeah.